third video on the peach sponge. So, made it the first time, it was quite successful. Made it the second time, not so successful. So we're going to have a go again. So, a tin and a half of... oh, goes on tight. Tin and a half of cheap peaches from the supermarket. Don't know why they're cheap. Blah, 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 blah. Drained the juice off them. I'm reducing the juice separately. I'm not going to put it in this time. We're going to just bake the sponge with the peaches and maybe put on the syrup later. So I'm reducing the syrup down so it becomes sweeter and a lot more like a proper syrup that would make a syrup sponge out of, or a treacle sponge, that type of thing. So, and then we've got, it's a 3-egg mixture for a cake. So it is, I've done it the old way. So it's 6 ounces of butter, 6 ounces of sugar, and then 6 ounces of self-raising flour, 3 eggs, and I put a pinch of baking powder in as well, because the baking powder will stop the cake from, the cake will rise and then it'll settle flat. And then if we want to put the syrup on the cake, we might be able to do it that way. So we'll see if this works. It was alright last time. It was nice, but it was just, it had a bit of a, where the peaches were, it was just a little bit too soggy. So, but I want us to have a go again. If it doesn't work, I might have to invest in some peach halves in tins, but I don't really want to do that because that kind of defeats the object of using cheap peaches. And I don't like to, not fail, but I like to succeed in what I'm doing. And what I had, the idea that I have in my head is kind of how I want it to be, or as close to it as possible. So, excuse fingers. So that in the oven, and I think it'll take, press it down a little bit. Hopefully the peaches will keep the shape, and the cake will settle into the gaps in the peaches. But we might just, once the mixture is melted in the oven, I think I might just, obviously I'm gonna eat those bits off my fingers, but we'll do that off camera. So we'll put this in the oven for a little while, then hopefully it will have spread out evenly as it's melted in the oven. I'm just going to turn that down on the stove, so that then we'll kind of see. So we'll bake it in the oven, 180 degrees, and we'll see how it turns out. Fingers crossed. So, cake's done. Turn the oven off. Cake's done, we'll let it cool. Syrup from the peaches has reduced, you can see it there, so that's nice and reduced and sticky. We'll let that cool, and then we'll decide if we're going to pour the syrup into the on the bottom of the cake, or kind of like pour the syrup into, take the cake out and pour the syrup in there, and then put the cake back in and it'll soak through, or to turn the cake out and pour the syrup over the top of the peaches. We'll have to decide when it comes out, when it's cool. Yeah, just slightly sinking, which is all right. There we go. So we'll decide what we're going to do when it's cool. Right, let's have a look and decide what we're going to do with it. Smells nice. That. I think what I need to do is the cake mixture doesn't want to get in between the peaches, so I think what we need to do is need to make it again and actually push the peach slices into the cake mixture on the bottom. So put the cake mixture in first, and then push the peaches into it. Yeah, so we can't put that in there today. Can't, pour that syrup into the bottom there and then put the cake back into it, because there's all these gaps and that won't kind of work, and that's a little bit too soft. So I think we need to do it again and then see how that turns out. But there is, I don't know if you can see, but there's gaps there where there's no cake. So it looks alright. Still don't eat it, and that's not ridiculous about it. But I'll tell you what I will do. Let's turn it back over. Put it back in there. And then we'll heat up that. And we'll pour it into there and see what happens with that. And then we know how that turns out. That'll be quite interesting. So we can use it for experiment on something to do. Yeah, so it's not entirely wasted. We can have a play around and a bit of an experiment. So I'll pause, heat this up, and then we'll pour it into there and see how that turns out when we slice into it. The bottom won't look too good. But we can see how it the syrup goes into the top and how that is. Right, so that's heating up as a syrup. So we'll poke lots of holes. With a thermometer, obviously, or anything pointy and stabby that you've got kicking about. And I might, if I pour it into the top, it's just going to want to pour out of the sides, but we can brush it into the top like a glaze and see what happens there. So I'll just melt it enough that it can be dabbed on rather than poured in, because it's just going to go down the sides, and that's not what we want. So I'll pause and we'll be back when it's fully melted. Well, that didn't take long, so keep it moving around. See, it wants to pool in the centre there where it's slightly dropped down. It's not that dissimilar from an apricot glaze, like an apricot jam glaze. I think it's probably a little bit too thick to soak into the holes. Actually, I'm already having an idea for next time. I've got some butter, so we might have another go at making it tomorrow, and then see how we go. There. Okay. I'm having thoughts. So that's about that. We'll see how that goes. We'll let it cool. Then we'll pull it out, and then we'll cut into it. And we'll see how it turns out. It's nice and shiny on top, and it's soaked in. Not there though, but you can see that's kind of gone a bit jellified. So let's pull it out, and let's have a cut into it, and then we can see. I'm going to have another go, and I'm going to do it straight away onto this video, so it's not going to be like 2 videos, it's going to be one as this, because I know this has failed, but I know where it kind of went wrong. Right, okay. So it's just the peaches are giving out too much juice. The syrup hasn't penetrated that much. Let's have a taste. It's going to be nice. It's sponge, isn't it? It's sponge with peaches in it. It's just, as you can see, it's just the peaches have given up too much juice, so it's just a little bit soggy there. But oh, that was nice, wasn't it? It's good sponge. It's just those gaps and things. Do I bake it for longer? Probably. Nice. Nice. But anyway, so we've learned something. We always do. Let's have another go. Right. Wipe my hands, pause, and then I've got everything ready. So, the plan is this. Need to make a bit more room. I've made some more cake mixture. So it's the same cake mixture. So 4 ounces of butter, 6 ounces of butter, 6 ounces of sugar, 3 eggs, and 6 ounces of flour, and a little bit of baking powder as well. What we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit of the cake mixture in the bottom of the cake tin, and then we're going to put that in the oven just to slightly melt. Not to cook it, just to slightly melt it. So we're talking, you do not want to do that properly. So 5 minutes. What that's going to do is it's going to spread it out along the bottom, and then we're going to push the tinned peaches into that, and then maybe just put a little bit more in. And then what that will do was it will mean that the peaches are completely encased in the cake mixture. So in the oven until it melts. It won't take long, and then we're going to push the peaches into it. They might not come out. They'll be at the bottom or top of the cake, depending on which way you have it up. They might not be as prominent as the cake before, so you might not be able to see them. Some of them might be kind of covered up, but it also might look a little bit like a pear tart Bordeaux, where the pears are slightly sticking through the almond cream mixture. So hopefully that'll kind of work. So we'll just melt it, and then we'll come back and we'll push those in, and then put the cake mixture on top. That's pretty straightforward. So we'll pause, and when the cake mixture is melted, we'll be back. Right, cake mixture has melted enough. Now what we're going to do is we're going to push the peaches into cake mixture like that. So hopefully they'll push up and there won't be any gaps. You might just have to spoon it around a little bit as well, but we'll kind of see. Can't melt it in the microwave beforehand because it's in a metal container. That's for one reason, and the microwave will, the way a microwave works, it will kind of want to cook the cake mixture. Whereas in the oven, just for a couple of minutes really, that's all it was, we'll just want to melt the butter and the sugar a little bit, just so we can push the peaches into it like that. So just need to be careful of that little bit there, but we'll see how we go. So They want to be quite pressed up against each other because I like the effect, the way that they looked. So the idea is that one peach fits into the gap in between those two peaches there, so they all slightly overlap. If the peaches are all the same size. But we'll kind of see, won't we? To be honest, it probably could do with a dry fruit, but tin peaches are cheap, so that's what we're using. So, do we need to concern ourselves with any bits of cake? Need a spoon. So, we need some cake mixture over there. Cake mixture in there. Cake mixture in there. Some more in there. Just so it melts into all those gaps. I didn't like seeing it, but it was that whole new, that's okay. So it's a bit fatter, this bit, but I think this will work. A bit more in there. Let's just put a bit down there. Okay. That's a bit more in there. And then we can spoon it, we can put the rest of it over the top. Quick wash of the fingers. And then gently put that cake mixture on top, because we don't want to disturb any of it now that we've taken that time just to push those into the cake mixture. And the cake mixture wasn't really starting to cook, it was just melting, so it shouldn't affect the cooking time or dry the cake out too much. There we go. Excuse fingers. They are the best tools that you have. So that should be okay. Like that. And then we'll just check on the cake mixture once it's been in for 5 minutes to make sure that's all melted and looking even. But there we go, in the oven, and we'll see what it looks like when it's cooked. Fingers crossed. We're cooked. We just need to allow it to cool. It's risen up slightly, it will flatten back down. That's with the baking powder. Just make sure it's cooked. It's just I'm not using it as a thermometer. I'm just using it to make sure that it comes out clean. Yeah, that's clean. So we'll wait for that to cool, and then we'll turn it out and we'll have a look. Right, let's have a look. Have it carefully. It's done it again. It's done it again. Let's scrape that off. It wants to shrink when it cools. I think that's what the problem is. That tastes nice though. That tastes nice. Slightly disappointing. Slightly disappointing. Right, so let's not waste anything. Let's see how we go. Right, paper back in there. Like that. Pour the syrup in. need Jeanette. It might just be that this is the first one that I made was the winner. Anyway, right, that way. For some reason I don't want to go in there properly, that didn't matter. Right, and then like that. Hopefully that'll soak into there. We'll let it cool and then we'll see what it's like once it's cooled and set. Not high hopes, to be honest. I think I might have nailed it on the first one that I did, but we live and learn, don't we? There we go. See what it's like when it's cooled. Right, well, let's turn this out and have a look. I don't think it's gonna have worked, but we'll get an idea. That's alright, isn't it? It looks alright. It's got the nice shiny glaze on it. Probably should have painted the glaze on rather than done that, but we live and learn, we live and learn. Let's have a look inside. How can I cut there so we know it's through. No, I think we want to squish up the sides. Yeah, it's still too wet. Let me see. It's still too wet along there, and the peaches are pushed up the side. I think the first recipe that I did was the right one, if I'm honest. So I nailed it in one, or nailed it as in doing it the best I can. I'll have a think about it, and we might have a see. That looks all right. That looks all right. It kind of just depends where you slice it. It'll taste nice. It's sponge with peaches in and syrup. What's that syrup like? I mean, it's lovely. It's just not exactly what I wanted. But it's lovely. Just not exactly what I wanted. Hit me pastry brush. See if it does. Put the glaze on like that. That would look better. But it's still, you can't hide that softness. But it's soggy, isn't it? Let's be honest. But I quite like that. I don't know what anyone else would think of that. They're probably just going to say it was soggy and horrible. But so I don't know. I'd eat it. Well, it's cake. I'm not going to eat it. Of course I'm going to eat it. I don't know. I'll have a think, and we'll probably have another go at it at some point. But not at the moment. It looks alright. It's just that I don't like that. But anyway, we'll have another go.